Hey guys, Savage Red Recovery back for another video. So I was just in a stream and there was a conversation about uh, pedos and drug addiction and them being similar or being the same or similar, which I disagree with them being similar. I would say that they are related, but they are not similar. Um, the difference between, like, if you go as a recovered heroin addict, if you go into any treatment center and you talk to anybody that is going through drug addiction or been through drug addiction, majority of the people were touched as children. Uh, Many of them were touched as children. Also, the parallels between drug addiction and pedophilia goes that single parent households are those kids are more likely to have those problems. But the difference is if you are touched as a kid, you are more likely to become a predator yourself. It's shown that you are highly likely to become touched. Usually, drug addiction starts off with a choice. Drug addiction is a disease. It is definitely a disease, but it starts off with a choice. And in my experience of being a drug addict, it's more of a spiritual or a soul like a hole in your soul type of issue. Um, Becoming a pedophile is like being a vampire. Once you get bit, you can get turned. It's not so much. There's not so much. So many things that are related to people just becoming pedos out of the blue. Working with drug addicts, a lot of the people that I see that had predator type mentalities, they themselves were preyed on as children. And the only similar thing is broken homes are the most likely to have drug addicts or molestation in them. It's less likely to have a solid family. So that's where I disagreed. I'm not exactly sure what caused like I'm not sure. I'm not sure what caused that to go off to happen the way that it did in that stream. Like I didn't mean anything other than I disagreed with the pedos and the drug addiction. Pedophilia, there hasn't been anything that's been proven to be able to cure it or stop it, except for castration or chemical castration. With drug addiction, you are able to not be a drug addict again. My sponsor has been sober for over 20 years. I've been sober for 6 years. I know plenty of drug addicts that were bottom of the barrel drug users that are now normal people and live normal productive lives. So I do have to say that there is somewhat of a difference between being a drug addict and a pedo. I think that they're similar because usually drug addicts have been touched by a predator and not the other way around. But they're not the same. The way to treat them I don't think is the same. And I don't think that the way that they should be handled should be the same. I do think that pedophiles should get harsher sentences. And I do find it weird that drug dealers and drug addicts get, on average, longer sentences than people that prey on children. It's not very. They're just not. It's not the same. When you decide to put yourself through doing drugs and continue to commit crimes to support your drug habit, there were choices that were made by you that you decide to make all on your own. Even if you decide, with certain circumstances that you're in or things that influence that decision, it was still a choice that led you down that path. When it comes to being a victim of a pedophile, that was a decision that they made for you. And the more than likely, the person that is doing that to you, someone else made that decision. So one of them has to deal with your own personal choices. The other one has to do with other people's choices. So I just think that it's quite different. And being as I was a drug addict and I was also touched as a kid. I just don't see it that way. I've experienced both things in life. And yeah, like that's just I don't agree with it. I don't see it that way. It is quite different to me because granted, when it comes to drug addicts, most drug addicts don't make it. They don't make it. They don't want to do the work to stay sober. They don't find value in it. But from all the stuff that I've seen when it comes to pedos, there isn't some large study of men or women that have offended and then stopped offending. Usually they start offending as soon as they're able to start offending again. So it's just different. Like, drug addiction is more of a lifestyle. It's more of a habit. It's more of a lifestyle and a habit. Because even drug dealers themselves are drug addicts. If they're not addicted to the drug itself, they're addicted to the lifestyle and the money. So even though they might not be doing the drugs, they're still in the same situations and same places with drug addicts. And guys that if you ask any guys that have been drug dealers that have been convicted for selling drugs, once they go the straight and narrow, they'll tell you it's hard not being able to have as much money as they had and not being able to do this, like having to wait for a paycheck, not being able to make as much money as they want. Like, it's a lifestyle. Like, the lifestyle itself is addicting. But when it comes down to being a pedophile, like that's a desire. Like, that is an interest or a it's just a desire. It's not so much a lifestyle. Like, you're attracted to minors. Like, that's not the same. Like, that's not the same as liking money, trying to make money. Like, I don't know. Just me personally, I don't find them to be similar. I was hoping I was be able to have a conversation, but I'm not sure if that's what's going to end up happening. I was hoping to be able to do that, but yeah. Does anyone see those things to be similar, or, well, they are similar, but to be the same thing or should be treated the same way? Because I don't. I think that pedos need to get the maximum sentence, like, more than drugs. I think there's I'm not it is what it is. It is what it is. Sometimes you ruffle people's feathers, or you upset them, or you do something wrong. If I had done something wrong and I knew what I did, I would apologize. But I'm not exactly clear of what I directly did. But the reason, like the main, like even if you go to a prison, pedophiles are looked down on as the lowest because they are the lowest. Like even criminals themselves see them as as lower. So people in the ranks of committing crimes in that lifestyle also see them as the bottom. That's for a good reason. At the end of the day, children are innocent. When you're 16 or you're 12 and you start smoking weed or you're doing any sort of drug, you're a minor, but you're choosing to do that. It's different. Now, don't get me wrong. If an adult forcibly started making minors do drugs and stuff, that's a different circumstance. That's not necessarily the same thing. I actually know drug addicts that's parents was doing heroin with them when they were kids. Like the first time I was in treatment with a guy that the first time he ever shot up heroin, he was like 12 and his mom shot him up. So like it is common for, like, it does happen where adults do stuff with kids when it comes to drugs. But again, it goes back to being in broken homes, and normally not having fathers in the house, and on top of not having fathers in the house, having pedos or being molested. Like most women that are drug addicts were molested as kids, and most boys that were drug addicts were also molested as kids. Majority of the guys I was in treatment with, a lot of them were touched as children. It, like, people don't realize like how common it is for boys to be touched and have drug problems. It's very, very, very common. It's not every case, but it is a lot of them. But I do think that we need to do some sort of reform when it comes to the extent that drug addicts are in prison compared to pedophiles. Pedophiles get out in a short period of time. I know of a guy that went to jail for having sex with a minor, and he only ended up doing like 18 months. And he only did 18 months. Like, and he ended up going to a camp. And no, he's not a friend of mine. No, we're not best friends. It's not someone that I hang out with. It was the guy that ended up touching me when I was a kid. So the guy that ended up fucking with me had fucked with someone else, and he went to prison for 18 months and got out and did it again. So that is the whole reason that I said that I disagreed, because I can relate to both situations. I can relate to being molested as a kid, and I can also relate to being a drug addict. So when I said in that conversation that I disagreed, that was the only thing that I was saying that I disagreed about. I wasn't disagreeing about anything else in the live stream or anything else in the show. I wasn't trying to be a dick. It is what it is. You learn to live with it. But yeah, I don't know exactly what I had done. I'm sorry that the the end part of the show ended up having to be about me, because that's not what I was trying to do. But I just think that they're different. They're similar because they happen normally in the same circumstance. They normally happen to kids that don't have fathers or kids that come from single parent households. But I don't believe in the way that they go about are done. There are plenty of cases of men dating women just to be able to get to their kids. There isn't many cases of drug addicts dating women to be around their kids because they're drug addicts. So, just my personal opinion that I do find them to be a little bit separate, and that's why fathers and mothers need to keep an eye on your kids, no matter what circumstance. If you're a single parent or if you are married, you just gotta watch what your kids are doing when it comes to these social media programs like TikTok and Instagram. There's all sorts of people lurking on the internet trying to get near your kids. Like if you go on YouTube and you look up any of the poacher channels, there's all sorts of people constantly being like there's all sorts of poacher channels that go and find these people on the internet, and they confront them and they try to get them arrested. And it's usually them finding them on like dating websites and Instagram. And there have been YouTubers that have gotten caught talking to people on YouTube that are their followers. There's all sorts of these things that are happening, and it's a much bigger problem than people realize. Also, me having two baby moms. After me, like I have two baby moms. I've got like both my kids. Like my son is with me now. Like he's gonna be with me now. So like it's not the exact same, but prior to that, like he was with his mom all the time, and she was a single mom. My daughter is with her mom, and she's a single mom. So with me not being around them all the time, that puts them at a higher risk, and I know this. Yeah. So coming from my experience, I don't see them to be the same, and I do see it to be a bigger threat and a bigger problem than people realize. LSP, the Golden Artist, yeah, after divorce, like mine happened after divorce as well. The divorce made me very angry and made me really rebellious, and made me do like I was out there doing things I shouldn't have been doing. And I put myself in a situation that allowed that type of person to get near me. So yeah, it's like after divorces or after a family of a parent dies, or the parents were never together. Anytime the home is broken up for any reason, like it might not be as relevant when a parent dies. I haven't looked at the statistics on that, but I do know that if you look at the statistics on single parent households, it's much elevated, much elevated, much elevated. But that's just what I wanted to address. I was hoping that uh, there could be a conversation on the stream, but it doesn't look like it's going to be happening like that. So, as always, guys, thank you for supporting. Thanks for coming and showing. Thanks for coming and showing up to the channel to give me support. Stay savage.